All right, we're going to get started. Everybody could take their seats. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the January meeting in February. Who says we're not on time? Of the Audit Committee. I am substituting for Jamie today, who is away. So we will get on. Mike, are there any public speakers?
No, there are no public speakers.
No public speakers? Okay. Next, we have the approval of the November 13 minutes, which are in the book. Are there any changes to the minutes that anyone has? If not, I'll make a motion to approve. Second, all in favor? Okay. Mike, are there any changes to the work plan?
Only one. The June meeting will be moved to July of 2018.
Okay.
Other than that, everything stays the same.
Okay.
Next meeting would be in April.
All right. And now we're on number 4, which is the third quarter 2017 financial statements. And Mike Fritz from Deloitte will make a presentation about that situation. Mike, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have Jill Strohmeyer with me here today as well. She is the individual that actually signs the third quarter financial statements. I will keep it fairly short for you since they are September 30 financial statements. There were no adjustments to these financial statements from what you had been presented by management. We had no past adjustments. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, and we believe that the reviewed financial statements are in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles.
Okay. Are there any questions on any of the information? If not, we need a motion to approve and accept the third quarter 2017 MTA consolidated financial statements. I will make such a motion. John will second. And if there are no other discussion, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Next, we have Pat Kane, MTA controller, to provide the management discussion on the MTA managed pension plans. Pat.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
This presentation is on page 140 in the committee book. Okay, today in your committee book, you have 6 audited financial statements of our benefit plans. So there's 4 defined benefit pension plans. There's the MTA defined benefit plan, the MAPSTOA defined benefit plan, Long Island Railroad pension plan, Metro North company cash balance plan, and then we have the MTA deferred compensation plan, which is the 401k and 457 plans, and finally we have the MTA retiree benefits plan, the OPEB plan. Listed here we have the total assets. The largest plan is the MTA DB plan, which has $3.4 billion of assets and roughly 30,000 members. The financial statements are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles using the Government Accounting Standards Board's GASBs. There are 4 sections: the MD&A, the basic financial statements, the notes to the financials, and the required supplementary information. For fiscal year 2016, we had 1 new GASB, GASB 82. And basically, this is a fairly minor GASB, but what it did is it redefines the what we call covered payroll. Covered payroll is used in one of the ratios in the schedule. So one of the ratios is the ratio of contributions to covered payroll. Covered payroll is now defined as income or payroll that's pensionable earnings. Before that, it was entire W-2 earnings, so it included earnings that were not pensionable earnings. In this schedule, we have an overview of all the pension plans that the MTA contributes to. So we have the single employer plans, which are the 4 that we just went over that are audited. And then we have the 2 multi-employer cost-sharing plans. That's the Neisler's, which is the New York State plan. MTA has 0.31% membership in that plan, and that covers basically headquarters employees. Then we have the NYSERS plan. MTA is 24.1% of NYSERS, and that covers most of the transit employees and the bridges and tunnels employees. So we have the total pension liabilities. In total, it's $30.2 billion. We have next the plan assets or the plan investments, and in total, it's $22.1 billion. And the net of that is $8.1 billion, which is our unfunded liability, which under GASB 68, we now record that on our books as a liability. Next, we show the funded ratio. The funded ratio is the ratio of the plan assets to the liability. And in total, on average, we're about 73.2%. If you look at the single employer plans alone, we're 68.7%. The Long Island Railroad additional plan is now 50.9%. Back in 2013, that ratio was 24.1%.
Right, that's the one we have put money into
Right.
each
So
year.
since 2013, we
over a
put in
period of time.
$610 million additional money beyond what the actuary requires. So in 2017, we put an additional $145 million in, and that should bring that funded ratio up to about 61%, 60.4%.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I could just insert, we, as staff who are responsible for just focusing on how to minimize cost, really do appreciate the board's willingness to let us use excess monies when we've had excess monies to address these long-term liabilities. And this is, it's a liability for the entire MTA. It's not just a Long Island, but it's for everyone. And this is saving us a lot of money, because otherwise we'd be having to pay interest effectively at a higher rate than what the market would require. So again, the board's direction to us and allowing flexibility with us to use monies when available. And we don't seem to be in a situation now where we have available monies.
Quote unquote, when available.
When available.
Right.
To address these long-term unfunded liabilities, I think you're seeing a real benefit here.
Okay.
Okay, and finally, on the last page...
The Neisler's plan is the plan that the controller, state controller...
State controller, right.
I don't want to use controls, but is responsible for it.
Right, that's right.
Is a better way to put it.
Right.
Right, okay. Okay.
So taking a look at the final slide, we have kind of a map of the United States of the funding ratios by state. So you can see that the Washington, D.C. is funded at 100%, 100.5%. New York State, which is the Neisler's plan, is that the right one? Yeah, Neisler's New York State, that's 94.5% funded. And then above that, I put the MTA. The MTA, weighted average is 73.2. That's kind of a pink box there. But this gives you sort of a general picture of what the funded ratios are by states across the country. New Jersey's 30.9. That looks like probably the lowest that I can see here. Yeah, it is. It's kind of a rough map. So.
In terms of funded ratios, you're south of us.
Yes.
Right, that's right. Right.
Well, as long as the 94 stays good, because that's where my wife gets her pension every month.
Okay.
On the 30th day of every month, it comes in the mail, so it better stay there in that regard.
Right.
Yes. Good. That's a very interesting chart, because it shows the differences that are there in regard to even where MTA is, but where the state of New York is in regard to the other states. It's a very interesting map.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for it.
Any questions on that? Okay, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Pat? Okay. If not, we will, Mike Fritz will talk about the results of their audit on the pension plans.
Okay, what I'm going to do is talk about the audits of the 6 plans that Pat shared with you previously in terms of what are plans under your control. I do think your questions you asked are very important ones as it relates to the funding status overall. As Pat mentioned, this $8 billion obligation does get recorded on your financial statements, and I can guarantee you it's something that your bondholders are looking at.
Right.
The 70% funding ratio, in my personal experience, is a good ratio to be at. Typically I see flags starting to be raised when you get into the 60s and below percentage. Obviously, you'd like to be higher, but that 70% is not, as you saw, is not unusual compared to what you would see with other state plans.
Now, so the liability, the $8 billion, the liability issue, that's on a date certain. right?
Yes.
It's on a date certain in regard, so that could change.
That will change.
It will change during the year.
Right.
As people are hired or retire or whatever happens in that concept. Okay.
Your investment performance on the plan will affect that. The discount
Right.
rate as investment or as borrowing rates go up and your investment rates go up, you're going to see probably that come down because the discount rate will get higher. So there's a variety of factors that enter into play.
Okay.
When we do our audits, we do look at the investments. We're looking at the valuation of the investments, the actual making sure that you do have existence, ownership of the investments. We have our actuaries look at the census data that's provided in terms of your employees and in terms of their benefits that they are earning. We look at the discount rates in regards to those pension plans. None of those assumptions or policies changed from the prior year, so you're consistent year to year, other than the one minor item Pat mentioned in terms of what's deemed to be covered payroll. Very minor impact on the plans themselves from that perspective. The financial statements had no adjustments recorded in them. There were no past adjustments. The financial statements were prepared by your staff. The reason why these are somewhat, quote, late, I'm not going to call them late, but they're December 2016 financial statements. It's because it takes time for the actuaries to get all the data that they need regarding all the employer or employee information, the employer information in these plans. So it's not inconsistent to have these financial statements be issued at this point in time, so you shouldn't be concerned from that perspective. In terms of our audit, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies noted in the internal control plans as it relates to that. I did provide to you separately, because this is really just for your own information, but I did provide to you separately the required communications that we have. It also includes the management representation letter, which is information we rely on in being able to do our audit, but again, very consistent with prior years.
Any questions for Mike on the pension plan audit?
So nothing flies off of the pages as a cause for alarm in any way, correct?
That's correct. I mean,
Thank you.
Okay. We need a motion. I'll make a motion to accept Deloitte's audit of the various pension plans. Second. Any questions? All in favor? All right. Okay. Now we're going to Section 7, Enterprise Risk Management and Internal Control Guidelines. Lamont Kurse,
Yes.
MTA Chief Compliance Officer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I draw your attention to section page 407 in your book. It's the executive summary of the report. We'd just like to draw your attention to the snapshot in terms of where we are in the terms of the program. All the agencies have submitted their annual certifications on internal controls, which are signed by their agency presidents. The programs are in full compliance with the requirements of the New York State Internal Control Act. The ERM Committee continues to meet and is continuing to work on closing all open recommendations. The agencies continue to document their vulnerability assessments in our current platform, and the RFP was issued and the procurement was completed in terms of replacing our current system. Our current system in terms of managing risk assessments is, to say the least, outdated. Last month, the board approved the replacement, and we will be working throughout this year on the transition from the old system to the new, with an eye on attempting to make improvements to the program wherever possible. The idea is not to take the old system verbatim and bring it into the new, but to look for areas of improvement as we are making that transition. As such, that does raise certain risks for us in terms of the program, because obviously the staff that's involved in the day-to-day management of the program will also be the same individuals who are involved in the migration, integration, development of the new program. But at this point, we believe we'll be able to do all of that at the same time. In terms of the summary of our control activities, we have 1,924 business processes documented, 903 of which we consider significant. There are over 4,800 total control risks, in those processes, 6,179 total controls, and currently we have 12 open corrective action plans that involve material or significant deficiencies as determined by management. We have certain external-driven risks that we are dealing with. As you know, this program is required to be compliant not only with the Internal Control Act for New York State and the guidelines issued by this board, but there are also federal requirements as well and standards which we are required to comply with. Those are, to say the least, in a state of flux. They have been modifications to the Coastal Enterprise Risk Management guidelines, and we are working on ensuring that we maintain compliance with all of those.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. You want to take the next piece, which is
Yes, I
the
do. Page 4.
requirements of the state of New York?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
But just one other thing. On page 415 is the actual enterprise risk management and internal control guidelines that are issued by this board. Each year we bring those to the board for an opportunity to review and make any changes. At this point, the staff is not recommending any changes to those guidelines.
Okay.
Every year.
Every year, right. Okay.
Section 8. Every year, I am required to sign a certification that the MTA's program is compliant with the requirements of the Internal Control Act. In your book, you will find that certification. You will also find a certification signed by the chairman, also attesting to that fact. I'm here today to tell you that, based upon my assessment, we are fully compliant with all requirements.
That's always helpful.
It is a very good thing,
Always
yes.
helpful. Now, the state of New York just gave us a bonus for that. We'd all be very happy in that regard, but unfortunately that doesn't work. Okay, any other questions for Lamont on those issues? We'll go to information technology. Sid?
Morning.
Good morning.
Just a brief report on some initiatives and strategies within the MTA IT. MTA IT is driving savings by using resources more efficiently across the agencies. In 2015 and 16, we took a 13% budget reduction, both head counts and non-labor, which netted a total of 128 budgeted positions reduced. Through economies and demand management, we were able to give back one-time savings of $96.1 million. So over the course of the 3 years, net savings are $143 million. One of the bigger initiatives we're working on is application rationalization. In 2017, our inventory was 920 apps. Out of that, we're looking at 580 apps, which 298 of those apps are potential candidates for rationalization within strategic projects. Those projects being fair payment, the enterprise asset management system, Kronos timekeeping system, document management, incident management, crew management, and central train scheduling systems. Some multi-year initiatives are the upgrade of our server environment to Windows 2010, the Windows desktop upgrade to Win 10, data center optimization. We've got 5 data centers, 2 Broadway, Jamaica, Hillside, Livingston Plaza, and Randall's Island. And we also have our IBM mainframe and PeopleSoft hosting contract, which is coming due, so we're going out for an RFP for that. Another major initiative is the upgrade of Long Island Railroad and Metro North's business networks, which are coming end of life. MTIT continues to consolidate multiple contracts into single IT contracts or enterprise license agreements. Some examples of those are the PeopleSoft. We completed the Cisco network, which is now the MTA standard, VMware, IT training, EMC backup systems, HP managed print services, Dell computers, IBM document management system, and Oracle maintenance. So major accomplishments in 2017. On the information technology side, we installed the new ServiceNow application to help improve IT service delivery and inventory controls. We continue to update cybersecurity platforms. We delivered dashboard for projects trackings, and we upgraded the identity management system. On the agency side, we completed the rollout of the B Division countdown clocks, security reviews for SCADA and industrial control systems for the operating entities, MTA the website performance dashboards, Long Island Railroad PCI compliance, which was new, New York City Transit, Metro North, and PCI compliance, which were renewals, and onboard ticketing issuing machines for Long Island Railroad. Goals for 2018. Continue to update our security postures, update the PeopleSoft hardware and disaster recovery, continue the upgrades to desktops on Windows 10, new mainframe support contract, which I talked about. On the agency side, complete the replacement of New York City Transit's business network, start upgrades again of Metro North and Long Island Railroad, complete the proof of concept for UWB CBT system, and continue rollout of the information asset management system. What are the new website, correct, yeah. What are our concerns? Since the last report, IT is working with HR and is having greater success in recruiting staff through job fairs, interviews on the weekends. We actually come in on the weekends and do interviews. Advertising efforts to promote the MTA IT brand and continue development of the current staff. We're assessing the impact of the recent hiring restrictions on IT's operations and project completions. Any questions?
Questions for Sid on IT?
Okay. If I could make
Yes.
a comment. One of the goals with the consolidation of IT was to reduce cost as well as being more efficient. And I have to say that, under Sid and Weil, they have done a great job of cooperating with us to reduce cost. The biggest concern I have right now is on these application rationalization. They're going after it. They're trying to make sure that we can give each agency what they need, but we're starting to get a little resistance. And the resistance is what you would expect. I've always done it this way. I don't want to change. And we can't have that. And so I'm working with them and I'm pushing them, but every agency head has to make sure that we're not going to let people do things just because they've done it this way all the time. There's no reason to have an application that requires significant time and effort to support. And I think we're going to get there, but it's human nature to try to push against this. But we have to save money, and the way we can save money is just let the IT people go in, work with the business people to understand what the process is, but to show them that we can do it better, not the way we've done it in the past. And so I put that out as an issue. We're addressing it, and I think we're going to get where we need to go. But there's money to be saved without compromising anything. And saved money means we can put more money back into security, and all the issues that we need to be probably investing even more going forward. So,
Ronnie, do you want to add something?
I do, thank you. I just wanted to affirm Bob's point and to acknowledge working with Sid and the agencies. I'm going to be Bob's partner in this to work with IT and the different agencies. I know that doing things differently is not always a comfort zone for us, but we are committed to getting there. I also wanted to acknowledge the role that IT has played in our customer-facing initiatives over the last several months. The ability to have gotten countdown clocks on the B division was homegrown, and it was homegrown in Sid's shop, and it was a phenomenal savings of time and money. The ability to have all of the customer-facing dashboards on MTA.info, that's, again, through IT. So, a strong partner for MTA and its initiatives. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sid. I think the entire board believes the more information we give out to the public, the better the MTA is. And the more transparency and the more we can put up on the website and MTA info, the better it is in that regard. In my opinion, I think most of the board members would agree. Andrew? Sid,
Are you currently working, I have heard that you're working to make the B division countdown clocks more accurate?
Yes, we're doing, every 30 days we're doing snapshots, and I'm reporting the accuracy. We fell to 94.4% in December. In January, we were back up to 96.3, I think it was. During the proof of concept, we were at 97.3. We've identified what some of the issues are, and we're working with the operational groups to resolve those.
So it's going to remain Bluetooth for the foreseeable future, though, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next, Mike Garner, Chief Diversity Officer, and his staff to discuss DDCR's performance measures. Welcome.
Morning. We're going to give you an update on our closeouts and our site visits. Naeem.
Good morning. So this slide shows the progress we made in closing out projects since the beginning of this process, which was in the third quarter of 2015. So through January 31st, 2018, 1,185 contracts have been completed, with additional 25 which are in the process of being completed, and there are additional 47 contracts which are pending agency action, after which we will proceed with closing out those projects. Additionally, we are also making great progress, continue to make progress in visiting locations where MW and DBs are working. For the calendar year 2017, there were 644 such visits, with an additional 52 for the period of January 2018. That translates into about 53.5 site visits per month. Since the beginning of this exercise in third quarter of 2015, we have performed over 1,600 such site visits.
Let me also add that we're working with internal audit and with Lamont Kears in basically the closeout process. And so we're proactively reaching out to the agency presidents when we are forwarded over a notice of final payment and that project lags. And so we're being forceful. But it's my understanding that there's going to be an all-agency policy completed. But we're not going to be put in the same position that we were about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when the agencies were not closing out their projects, and we were closing our projects since 2002, 3, 4. So we are being forceful in making sure that we're not going to be put in that same position by proactively reaching out to the agencies and asking them to give us what we need in order for us to close out our projects. And secondly, each one of my MW, DB contract compliance managers is required to do at least 8 site visits per month.
What's the last thing that happens on a closeout? We send them the final check, or do we have to certify certain things before we send them the final check?
Yes, that too. But the last action is the agency must go into PeopleSoft and officially close out that project in PeopleSoft. That's the last act.
Okay. Okay. Questions, Mike? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your turn.
Yes.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I'd like to go over our 2017 year-end status and our 2018 proposed audit plan for vote by the committee. In 2017, we had a very productive year. We made 607 recommendations for improvement, with a total dollar impact to the organization of about $53 million on the operating side and $37 million on the capital contracts. Now, bear in mind, controls cost money. Our main emphasis is to ensure the controls exist to mitigate risk, but controls are expensive, and making sure we don't have too many controls or controls are not being followed. Our savings on the operating side result of some areas such as revenue enhancements, review of operating contracts, audits of vendor invoices, expense reduction, technology, as was discussed here, and workers' compensation. And we follow up with the agencies to ensure that the costs are achieved. On the contract side, our work is proactive, where we review cost proposals on behalf of the procurement departments at the agencies before they are presented to the MTA Board to ensure the lowest prices are achieved. Examples of such are the bus procurements that were done and also second avenue subway costs. One of the most critical things we do in 2017, and we'll continue to do so, is our Sandy work, Superstorm Sandy. We continue to audit Sandy costs and to meet regularly with the FTA. Of the $1.7 billion in grants awarded, we have audited $333 million worth and made recommendations for approximately $60 million in cost adjustments. Other work that we have done as well. Okay. Other work that we have done as well is a PeopleSoft upgrade that technology was involved with under YL and SID's guidance. Executive Order 168 at the request of the Chairman. We performed work on that as soon as the Executive Order was issued to ensure that written justifications exist and summary negotiations are documented, as well as looking at aspects of the Subway Action Plan, which we'll talk about our work in 2018 in that regard as well. As we move towards our 2018 plan, our work really begins September. It's about a 5-month process. We begin our planning process in September, as it takes several months to complete, resulting in a comprehensive risk assessment which is fully documented. The foundation of the audit plan was developed through a formal risk assessment that's performed in accordance with the Institute of Internal Auditing Standards. Our plan is discussed with the Chairman, the Managing Director, the agency presidents, and much of their staff as well to get input for our work in 2018. Other sources that we use is financial data, board reports, strategic plan, our structure, any changes to our structure, new regulatory mandates that were issued, and certainly changes in technology. And our plan has always a spot for management requests, which we do get during the year. The main objective of our risk assessment is to ensure that we mitigate risk. We conduct about 91 interviews throughout the agency to assure ourselves that risk to the MTA in achieving its business objectives were fully defined and understood. The universe is auditable entities that addresses those risks, that we have no gaps in audit coverage, and we, as I said, we solicit input from management personnel as well, and we meet very closely with Lamont Kurse, our second line of defense, as well as Deloitte, our external auditors. So the results of our risk assessment for 2018 identified 296 audit activities at the MTA and its agencies. An auditable unit is a candidate for potential audit, which is ranked high, moderate, or low. It is our goal that auditable units are covered on a 5-year cycle, and the results of this year's risk assessment were applied to our resources, identified 165 audits, which we will conduct. This is a preview of how we plan to spend our time at the MTA agencies in 2018. Our challenge, as always, is to provide balance of audit coverage for the MTA and its 6 agencies. The biggest change is that our time has shifted from other agencies to the MTA because of the addition of the Business Service Center to the MTA, as well as technology under the MTA. These percentages were reviewed again with all the individuals I spoke to as well. We really break down the MTA into 8 business functions, starting with revenue, finance, service delivery, safety, of course, HR, technology, capital program, and then procurement. This is how we spend our time in 2018. We propose to spend our time in these areas, and it's consistent with past years. And again, all these percentages were reviewed with the chairman, the managing director, and the agency presidents as well to ensure adequate coverage was provided. So, what will we do in 2018? We certainly will focus our audit work on governance, risk, and controls. And the control environment will continue to review efficiency and effectiveness of operations. We'll look at the reliability of internal as well as external reporting to ensure that it is accurate and supported. And of course, we will support agency-wide goals and initiatives. Just to give a little snapshot of what kind of work we'll be doing, we have a vast array of MTA activities that include administrative areas such as payroll to pensions, operational areas such as bus depots, maintenance shops, bridges, and tunnels. I spoke about the Executive Order 168 on the service delivery, the work that we will do there, looking at such work as depot facilities, diesel shops, bridge and tunnel facilities, the subway action plan, certainly, subway car maintenance and signals, and power. Well, your question is, who audits the auditors? I think we shouldn't we should also be audited as well. We're required per our standards to have an internal assessment done every year, which we conduct. But internal assessment is not as independent as an external one. Per our standards, we are required to have one done every 5 years. I'm happy to say that we have done that, and this year will be our 5th year. We need to get an external assessment as well. We work with Bob Foran to get those proceeds. We're hoping that the cost will be, around $25,000, but it's certainly something that we need to do to ensure that we're following our standards and that the work we perform can be relied upon. And then in 2018, of course, we'll continue to coordinate with Deloitte, our external auditors. We are the liaison for the city and state controller work that's done, looking at those reports, attending those entrance conferences, and making sure the MTA responds to them as required. And we'll continue to work with Lamont Curtis, our Chief Compliance Officer, as he talked about the internal control environment at the MTA. And then in 2018, we will go forward towards the end of the year for our quality assurance review, which is basically an audit of the audit department, which then the people performing that at the firm will come to the audit committee probably next January and give you the results of that review as well.
Andrew, you have
Mike,
a question?
Yes.
Are we up to date on Sandy money from the federal government as per the projects we're undertaking and have yet to undertake?
To my knowledge, we are. Michelle, what did you? Well,
So yes, we're drawing down the funds as we're spending it. We have a lot more obligations than what has actually been spent to date, but the projects are moving forward, and we are current.
And we'll have, obviously, you feel we'll have enough for Canarsie, Rutgers Tube, and other projects as well?
Yes, the yards are the big spends that have not been contracted out yet, that the funds haven't been obligated for, but the tunnels and those funds have been, the contracts have been let, and they're
Great. Thank you.
so, Mr. Chair, with that, if I get a...
Questions for Mike? We need a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the proposed audit plan for 2018. Second, any questions? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you so much.
We now have to go into executive session to discuss the security and sensitive data issues. We will return after that just to adjourn the meeting. Motion to move into executive session. Second, all in favor? Yep, we are reconvening the audit committee after executive session, and I will now make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Adjourn, whatever word we want to do. Second, all in favor? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.